The bullies in Brussels are popping their champagne. They're calling it a rebuke of populism, a win for Brussels, a death blow to the European nationalist right. But here's what nobody in the legacy media is telling you. The man who just beat Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban actually ran to the right of Orban on immigration, on Ukraine, on the sovereignty of the Hungarian nation. The left did not win Hungary. Orban's Overton window did. Stick them to the very end of this video because I'm going to break down exactly why the Hungarian election is not the story the globalist media wants you to believe that it is, and why what you're watching right now is not a leftward lurch. It's proof that Viktor Orban permanently transformed the political DNA of an entire civilization. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis. You're not going to get anywhere else, so you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. So yesterday, Hungarians went to the polls. They held their national parliamentary election, and Viktor Orban, the great Viktor Orban, a nationalist populist stalwart who's won 4 landslide elections in a row, finally met his match. His Fidesz party, which had governed Hungary for 16 consecutive years, was defeated by Peter Magiar and his center-right Tisza party. Final results, with 99% of votes counted, showed Tisza winning a staggering 138 seats out of the 199 seats in the Hungarian parliament, a 2/3 supermajority on roughly 53.5% of the vote. Fidesz was left with just 55 seats. Now, the legacy media saw those numbers and they immediately started declaring the death of nationalism, the defeat of populism, the defeat of the right. They do this every single time a populist loses. CNN was euphoric. The EU was euphoric. They saw a pro-EU candidate win and declared it as a validation of Davos and Brussels and the globalist project. But let me ask you some very simple questions. Just put this all in focus for you. What kind of pro-EU victory produces a winner who also says, and I'm quoting him, that Ukraine cannot be admitted to the EU under a fast-track procedure? Orban didn't back that fast-track admittance into the EU, and neither did Magyar. What kind of liberal triumph produces a new prime minister who says that he's going to require stronger assurances regarding the rights of ethnic Hungarians in Ukraine before he backs Kiev's application at all? Again, that was an Orban policy, and it's now a Magyar policy. What kind of left-wing wave produces a candidate who actually ran to Orban's right on immigration, promising to slash legal immigration and dramatically cut foreign work visas even beyond what Orban has done? This is not what a left-wing win looks like, not even close. Now, let me give you the real story, and it starts with understanding what Viktor Orban actually accomplished in 16 years that's got nothing to do with this election result. When Orban came to power in 2010, Hungary had a functioning left, okay? So you had the Hungarian Socialist Party, the MSZP. They had actually governed the country twice before Orban came to power. There were the Green parties. There was a coalition of liberal, pro-EU, progressive forces that genuinely competed for power. What we have to understand is that Hungarian left-wing world is gone. It's literally extinct. Here's a stat that'll blow your mind. In this last election, every single major left-wing party in Hungary, the Socialists, the Greens, the Dialogue Party, the LMP, the Solution Movement, every single one had to withdraw from the race entirely. Or at the very least, they collapsed below the 5% parliamentary threshold. I mean, you've got to get that. The far left Democratic Coalition, Hungary's last recognizable torchbearer for progressivism, received less than 1.5% of the vote. They're not even in parliament. Let me say that again. The political left in Hungary is not in parliament. Remember that when you see all of these ridiculous celebrations in legacy media that Viktor Orban's finally gone. Oh, poor Trump's best friend in Europe just got defeated. Yes, he's gone, but he's not done. Viktor Orban so thoroughly dominated and shifted the political culture of Hungary to the right that the best the opposition could produce after 16 years was a candidate who was himself a former Fidesz insider. Fidesz being Viktor Orban's party, if you don't know. A lot of people don't mention that. Magiar was once a Fidesz lobbyist. He's a man who's grown up inside the very political culture that Orban built. He's a man who is, by every measurable standard, socially conservative, nationally minded, and immigration restrictionist. Peter Magiar may have defeated Orban, but he did not defeat Orbanism. In fact, he had to wear an Orbanist costume just to be competitive. But as it turns out, it wasn't a costume. When it comes to issue after issue after issue, Peter Magiar is just as Orbanist as Orban himself, if not more. Wait until you see this. But first, I need you all to go right now to turleytalkscrypto.com. That's turleytalkscrypto.com. I want to tell you about something that I think is incredibly important, especially given everything we're watching happen in this economy right now. You know what I talk about every single day, right? The system that was supposed to protect everyday Americans is showing its cracks. Your groceries cost more. Your 401k is bouncing around. I mean, I've been asking myself harder questions about my own financial future, and I think you should be too. Here's what the globalist financial establishment does not want you to understand. You don't have to keep your entire retirement in their system. That's why I want to tell you about Block Trust IRA and why I think it matters right now more than ever. Block Trust IRA lets you add Bitcoin and crypto to a tax-advantaged retirement account, the same IRA structure you already rely on. And look, you don't need to understand crypto. That's the entire point. Think of it like having a professional portfolio manager handling the strategy for you. Unlike Wall Street, Block Trust IRA only profits when you profit, period. Your assets are held in institutional cold storage, insured, protected. It's yours. This is financial sovereignty, gang. And given everything happening in the economy right now, there is no better time to start asking harder questions about your retirement. Right now, when you open up your account at turleytalkscrypto.com, you can receive up to $2,500 in bonus crypto to get started. turleytalkscrypto.com. If you've been watching this channel, you already know the world is changing. This is where you start changing with it. Click on that link below right now. Magiar is 45 years old. He's a lawyer. He came out of the Fidesz political machine. He only broke with Orban about 2 years ago, and the reason he broke really had nothing to do with policy or ideology. It had to do with a political scandal involving his ex-wife, Judith Varga, who was Hungary's justice minister and was caught up in a pardon controversy under Orban. So Orban, as far as Magiar was concerned, he used her as a scapegoat. Magyar's response then was to launch a 2-year campaign going village to village, bypassing Orban's media machine by making personal contact with Hungarian voters in their own communities. And what did he campaign on? Was it open borders? No. Was it celebrating diversity? No. Was it progressive social policy? No. He campaigned on ending corruption. He campaigned on restoring Hungary's access to frozen EU funds, not because he loves Brussels, but because Hungary's economy desperately needs them. And critically, and this is absolutely key, he campaigned on being even more restrictionist on immigration than Orban himself, targeting the guest worker pipeline that Orban had quietly opened up in recent years to fill Hungary's demographic labor gap. So the former conservative premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney, he put it perfectly. He said this, quote, Peter Magiar is a socially conservative immigration restrictionist who wants to cut taxes and double the defense budget. He criticized Orban for admitting too many guest workers and wants to increase Hungary's already generous pro-NATO incentives. On virtually every issue, his platform is well to the right of center by European standards. So what's really going on here is that the legacy media and the bullies in Brussels are basically celebrating the defeat of their longtime nemesis, Viktor Orban, who's been in power for 16 years. But those celebrations are largely cosmetic because Magyar proves that while Orban was defeated, Orbanism lives on. Now, that said, yes, there's going to be a change of posture towards the EU. Hungary needs EU money as far as Magyar is concerned, and he's going to make strategic concessions to Brussels in exchange for unlocking those frozen funds. That's not ideology, that's economics. But the idea that Hungary has suddenly elected a progressive Europhile who's going to flood Kiev with tanks and wave rainbow flags, sorry, gang, that's an absolute fantasy at this point. As for Viktor Orban himself, whose autograph I have back there on my bookshelf, that's I'm pointing to it right there. His 16 years of rule has done something profoundly important. He didn't just win elections; he permanently moved the Overton window in Hungary so far to the civilizationalist right that even his replacement had to adopt his framework just to be politically viable. The political left is dead in Hungary, very much thanks to the Christian civilizationalist policies that the Orban government pursued for nearly 2 decades. And interestingly, this isn't the first time that Orban has suffered defeat. He actually lost his first re-election bid back in 2002. So he's come back once before, and he can come back again. That's exactly what we can expect if Peter Magiar gets too close and comfortable with the bureaucrats in Brussels. He won promising an Orban government without Orban corruption. Let's see if he can deliver. Because if not, a very savvy Viktor Orban is waiting in the wings to return stronger than ever. The era of Orban is far from over.